these are all of the blueprints I've found so far, and I've sold countless spares. So where did I find them all? Well, instead of thinking about specific locations on the map, think about specific container types. Whilst almost any container has a chance for a blueprint, some containers have higher chances. So knowing what containers to loot will really help you know what to focus on. Let's go through some of the containers that have worked for me, and then some loot routes that have increased my luck for finding lots of blueprints. I'll also showcase the specific containers that seem to have a higher chance for specific blueprints. Now, before I continue, doing night raids, looting breachable rooms, or key rooms seems to increase the chance for blueprints as well. Firstly, these rusted boxes, I thought they would only have scrap in and aren't worth looting, but I have found blueprints in here and also weapons and a bunch of other useful stuff. So definitely pry these open and take a look inside. You might be surprised at what you'll find. Another really important place to loot or specific container is these black boxes on Bluegate. Honestly, they are all over the place in the underground of Bluegate, but you can also find these all over the place in Bluegate, all over the overworld, so to speak. So you don't have to just go in a specific loot. Keep an eye out for these things. I've had some good chance finding blueprints in here. The next place that I found a lot of blueprints are the weapon boxes, the green weapon caches, and these can spawn all over the place. On top of that, we've got these ammo boxes. I thought there'd only be ammo in here, but I've also found blueprints inside ammo boxes, so keep a good lookout for these as well. If you're able to get the security breach skill yet, and I highly recommend doing so, all of these security breach lockers do have some blueprints inside as well, so you'll be able to get them there. Another really reliable place to get blueprints is uncovered raider caches. So these can spawn at any time. You've just got to listen out for that ticking noise, but you can find a bunch more during the specific Raider Uncovered Caches map event. I've also found countless blueprints just in residential type loot areas. For some reason, I've had the best luck with finding grenade and attachment blueprints in these areas. Now take this next part with a pinch of salt because I don't have enough data to definitely confirm it, but from my own anecdotal experience, it feels like certain containers have a specific set of blueprints that can drop, which may explain why some people can struggle to find the anvil, whilst others struggle to find the wolfpack. For example, I've only ever found the wolfpack blueprint in residential areas, specifically on the Buried City map, but I found it a lot. Like, I kept selling this early on, and I've come across it multiple times, looting the same container type. So bearing in mind that this is anecdotal and there needs to be more testing and it might not be completely accurate, here's a look at some of the blueprints I consistently find through different container types. Starting with the ammo box, I found a lot of weapon blueprints in here, specifically the anvil blueprint. The Raider Cache is another place where I found weapon blueprints. I'd love to get some community input here. Who has found blueprints in a Raider Cache and what have they been? I'd love to get your input. I have a feeling there might be all sorts in here, but I haven't looted enough myself to be for sure. For rusted boxes that you have to breach, I have found grenade blueprints. Specifically, the Showstopper blueprint keeps popping up for some reason, but if I remember correctly, I have seen other grenade blueprints in here, but that might have just been a lucky chance. For Bluegate boxes, I've found all sorts of blueprints. However, the one thing that stood out to me the most was the augments. I think I found all of my augments on Bluegate specifically. I can't remember exactly if they were all from these boxes, but I have not found any other augments on maps outside of Bluegate. Once again, this could just be anecdotal, but it's quite interesting. Red lockers, I found all sorts. Although it usually ends up being weapon and attachment blueprints, I feel like the red lockers have a very wide range of potential loot items, so that might be why. For weapon cases, I've only ever found weapon blueprints. I keep seeing the Toronte, which is something that I don't see as often in other places. Like the kind of places where you keep seeing the Bettina and the Anvil and even the Osprey. I don't get the Toronte as often. The security breach locker, I have found a bunch of weapon blueprints in here, and also, more specifically, gun parts blueprints. This is the only place I've personally found gun parts blueprints. And then, of course, residential loot. I've highlighted the fact that I found a lot of attachment and grenade, specifically the Wolfpack blueprints. This has been my experience, mostly focused on looting on Buried City. Now, with all of this information in mind, it's all very anecdotal, and I'd love to get some community input. So in the comments, tell me where you last got your latest blueprint, what particular container it was from, and what map as well. It'll be interesting to know. Maybe we can kind of gather together and figure this one out. Now, I've set together 2 loot routes that I think cover some of the most likely spawns for the blueprints, considering my own personal experience finding them. I personally think Blue Gate and Buried City are just the best maps for this. I didn't have much luck finding blueprints on the dam. On Spaceport, I need more experience to figure that one out, so give me time on that one. Now, before I show a few different loot routes you can follow to increase your chances of getting these blueprints with a bunch of containers to loot, another great place to get blueprints is the trials. Each star rating you get for completing a trial will give you a reward. It's a random item, but it can include a blueprint, and it has for me multiple times. Fortunately, you can get duplicate blueprints through this, which is a shame, but if you complete your trials each week, the chance of you getting a bunch of blueprints really goes up. Right, let's talk about these loot routes then. You can try this out for yourself, and hopefully none of these get too over-congested. So for the Buried City blueprint run, you're going to want to start with the red tower. You can climb up the top and there will be a raider bag here most of the time. It does have a chance to spawn, and inside there you can usually find a variety of crafting materials and of course the chance for blueprints. In this case, we find a Bettina blueprint, which goes to show blueprints do spawn here, but it's the good old Bettina. But don't worry, there's many more places to find. Next, you want to drop down here, and you'll now have this nice room to loot with a bunch of searchable containers. Search everything. Basically, every container you open has a chance for a blueprint. These red lockers in particular have always been very kind to me, and I think the same can be said for most players, so definitely give a lot of attention to these. You'll also find a security locker down here as well. So if you need security breach, or if you have the security breach rather, this will just add extra value to your loot run. And of course, you will have the chance of finding blueprints in here. Now, what I found personally is these are the kind of places you're going to find a lot of weapon blueprints, and not specifically like attachment and grenade blueprints from my experience. And I'll show you where we can go now to do that. But first, just a quick reminder that this red tower does have some extra loot spots down here, sometimes a weapon case and 2 more searchable containers here. Now, I've honestly had the most luck finding grenade blueprints from the residential area buildings, specifically ones behind locked doors or breachable doors. And I'll show you the route to get to that now. It's, of course, the Plaza Rosa building. Yes, the good old pharmacy. But this is technically behind a breachable door. So you want to go into here at nighttime specifically. But this one ends up being a really nice place to loot because there's just so many containers in here. And it's got that added value that it's behind a locked door. And you'll see in a minute how we get a Wolfpack blueprint from here. Now, I've ran this hundreds of times, and I've probably found 3 or 4 Wolfpack blueprints in here. So I can confirm that I found Wolfpack blueprints in this building, but nowhere else. So keep that in mind. I have a strong suspicion that certain blueprints spawn in certain container types. For example, grenade blueprints may be in residential areas, whereas weapon blueprints are more likely to be in weapon cases. All right, here's a good loot route for finding blueprints on the Blue Gate map. Obviously, one of the best places is underground in Reinforced Reception. You don't have to go down there. Sometimes there can be ammo boxes in here in this little spot. So if you do get this starting side, this is a good route to kind of make your way through. So what we want to do is mark this area on the map up here. So we're coming up through this way. And as we go, I'll point out some important sort of points of interest that are worth checking over. So the first thing is when you get to about this point on the map here, you'll find your first lootable box. Unfortunately, it's not there, but there's another one here as well where you'll find like a raider's body right here on the map. So this is another one of these blueprint boxes I want to keep an eye out for. And then as you run out through this way, you'll find more of these lootable raider caches here too. All right, now we keep up going this way, up through this route up here. The next waypoint being this point here. You'll find one raider cache here. I don't know what to call these. Raider bags? They're worth looting. Once you get to this point again, there'll be another box here. But once again, these don't always spawn, these ones. So it's just kind of about chance. But we came across a few. Now we go underground here. And come in through this way. We're now underground in this area here. We're going to start looting these lockers. And this will take us up through here. A couple more lockers here as well. Wow, any of these empty lockers could spawn as a lootable container. And we're going to keep moving up and through this door here. And now we are in this main area, right? Where everyone loves to come. Obviously, as, you know, dangerous as this place is, it really is the spot for all of the good stuff. And you really should take a stop through here. If it looks a little too hectic, you can always leave. And going through this door. And once again, you've got this container. You've got all of these that are lootable with blueprints in potentially. And another one here, once again, that can be a lootable blueprint. And you have the 2 security lockers as well. And there's the first blueprint. And there's another Bettina. Of course it is. You'll always find Bettinas. But if you find a Bettina blueprint, it tells you that you're looking in the right area, right? Now, it really is recommended that you do the puzzle here, right? To open the door. Like, this door is just so worth looting. Absolutely is worth looting. So, didn't spawn here. Means it's probably in here on this wall there. Yeah, there we go. So they've got the 3 batteries. More of these boxes. These are really where I've had the best luck on Bluegate, specifically finding blueprints. Now, once you open this door, I would highly recommend looting absolutely everything in here. But there are some notable options. Firstly, these cases here. They didn't spawn this time. This one here. Got some valuable items that time. Then as you come down here, you're going to find a lot of the black cases again. And the weapon case here, from my experience, has a really high chance of spawning. The more black box here. And then there's usually an ammo box here. And potential black box spawns as well. Now, I heard somebody just PvP my friend, so I'm just a bit wary of that. But now you just want to make your way to the locked room. I know that there are care packages here, technically. Right, you press the button and you follow the right route. But I've personally found them to be pretty unreliable for loot, like good loot. Either way, come down here now. All the way down. There can be a grenade box here as well. More lootable containers there, potentially. Now we continue down this way. And we want to run all of the way down here, following this route underground to where about this point on the map. This spot here can have a weapon case. So once again, this is the kind of spot you want to pick up on because there can be blueprints in here. There we go, light gun punch blueprint. Not the one that we want, but it is a blueprint. It could have been something else, you know, we just got unlucky. And then we just continue down through this way now. Looking out for the green light. That's what we want to look for. That green light there, which leads into a locked, breachable room. As we come through this area, though, you will find more of these breachable boxes. I've had some luck here. I don't know. These boxes just have a really varied sort of loot pool. Like sometimes you just get metal parts like that. Sometimes you get actual weapons and stuff. But now we're coming into this room. There's going to be a breachable room up here. We just keep going down. It's right here. This is a really nice room that I would really recommend looting through. Another couple breachable boxes. There we go. A showstopper blueprint. So there's a grenade blueprint in there. I feel like that could have had the chance to be a blaze grenade blueprint, but unfortunately it wasn't. Rusted gear down here. You won't find blueprints on the shelves, but you can have a little look through. to see if there's anything that catches your fancy. Loot-wise, usually quite a lot of random stuff on here that's quite valuable. As you breach through this door on the other side, you'll have 2 more red containers, which are absolutely, once again, worth looting. You won't get everything, like something every time out of these, but like I say, they're usually pretty nice chance of getting some good stuff. And you can salvage these things into important materials. So that's worth doing. Now, you'll come out through this way, and there'll be more chances for red lockers there. And then you'll find yourself coming up to this room. This room's really quite interesting. First, more red locker spawns. I'll just show where we are on the map here. We're right at the entrance here. As we come up here, there's a couple spawns. Wow. There's a couple spawns up here worth keeping an eye out on. Died here. So there's the first one. A weapon box. There's another one there, though. You see that? This is a really nice room. So we can come along here and just do a quick roll. Didn't even need to do the roll. Once again, weapon blueprints can spawn in there. Another Bettina. Woohoo! So this is part of the pain of farming blueprints. You will find some that just aren't worth, you know, it'll just be the ones you've already got. But a Bettina blueprint could have been something else. What I like to think. And then what we can do is we can climb up here, walk along this part here, and then climb up there. There's obviously one here, and there's also one that can spawn there as well. So there's a lot of potential weapon box blueprints down here in some really cheeky spots. Now we want to leave, all right? We can just come up here and then leave at the nearest exit. I know that this is very similar to a loot route that I've shown, but my honest opinion as we extract here, I personally think that Buried City and Blue Gate are the best maps for finding blueprints. And it's going to be even better when Blue Gate has special map-wide conditions. One of the major issues with the dam is I've tried looking through all containers, and you can get blueprints randomly in any container, but there's not a reliable spot to farm. I've tried, I've looked, I spent hours. Personally, for me, maybe I've just not found the best spot. But I just couldn't find anything myself. And for Spaceport, I'm sure there's some probably decent spots, but the issue is it's just so large. But maybe we'll come back with some videos on that. I would honestly suggest Buried City and Blue Gate, though.